Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, JD Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join JD now and listen in on this leading conversation.
Welcome to another Excel Leadership Network Leading Conversations podcast. Today, we are delighted to have from Mexico on vacation, Puerto Vallarta, the great, the legendary, the myth, and the man, and all of that stuff. Daniel Nunez. Daniel, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, JD. Thank you for having me.
So you're on vacation, and you decided to do the podcast while you were taking a little bit of a break.
Yes, I need to learn to say no. But I love being here. I'm enjoying it.
So is the weather great down there or what?
Yes, it's about 80 degrees out here. Beautiful weather. I mean, that's actually a little hot. So it's great. Yeah.
Good. Hey, I want to jump in. I want you to tell us your story. We just had your celebration, though. 50 churches, your big goal, with a big birthday as well. Give us just your take on how that went.
Well, my wife asked me last year what I wanted to do for my 60th birthday. When I turned 59, she said, "What do you want next year?" So I told her, I want everybody there, all the Americans that I know, all the Mexicans that I know, all the local people, everybody there. I want to invite them to come and celebrate my birthday, but I also want to raise money and build church number 50. So it'll be 50 at 60. And so that became a thing for the whole year. And during the whole year, we raised money to build it. We were able to do it on my birthday week, which was on the 25th was my birthday. So on the 25th, we actually were building the church during the day, and then in the evening we had a party with piñatas, and only about 100 people came to that one because that's the people that were building that day.
Only 100 people came to that.
Only 100 people, because on Saturday we had over 600 people coming to the big celebration. We were able to dedicate church number 50 and able to pray over and install Pastor Hector and his wife Perla to pastor the church in a community in Tijuana called Las Alondras.
It was a phenomenal time. The celebration at the 50th site. I didn't even get to go inside. There were more people outside of the church building while you were having the ceremony. My wife and I climbed up and moved around the side of the building to peek in the windows, and we could hear. Unfortunately, it was all in Spanish, so we didn't know what you were talking about. But there was more people outside than inside. And then we went over. The celebration was amazing with over 600 people. But one of my favorite things is the birria tacos. Oh my goodness. Fantastic.
Yeah. So we had this lady that's been cooking for during all the construction of the 50 churches and all the 700 homes that we have built. And Lola, she's been cooking for all the teams that come and build and all that. So she made birria for 400 people or 300 people. I don't know, but we served over 600, and it kept coming. So God blessed it, really blessed it, multiplied it.
I was standing there watching the line, and it was a real loaves and fishes moment for me because people kept coming and coming and coming. And I thought, well, they're going to run out of food. And they never ran out of the rice, the beans, the birria, beef, and the tortillas. And it was like, and I noticed they picked up 12 basketfuls at the end.
Yeah, and that one of them we ate at the end in the kitchen because we didn't get to eat. We were just greeting everybody.
Oh, you did.
So my family and a couple of people that were helping, serving, and the cooks, we were all eating in the kitchen after people was almost everybody had left already. So come and have some. So we were fellowshipping there in the kitchen and eating some more birria. And then they had leftovers for more. So I mean, it just multiplied. Yeah, definitely.
My favorite restaurant in Tijuana is Lola's Kitchen. She is amazing, with the help from your wife Yoli and her mother as well. But I don't want to. I can get lost in the Mexican food that we have down there. Hey, tell us about how you came to Christ. I know basketball was involved, right?
Yeah, I was invited. I have a big family, a Mexican family. We have a big family, a lot of relatives, cousins, my brother, and we would all go and be going to a church of the Nazarene in Tijuana to play basketball against the church kids. So there was the rivalry, and the first time I went to play, we were all invited to come back to a service for a youth service that night, and I was the only one that came back. And I stayed in church ever since, and I came back that evening, and then I started going every Sunday, and that's how I came to know Christ. I mean, it was a year later that I actually got to meet Christ, but I was already going to church for almost a year. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you met your wife there as well, right?
Yes, she was speaking during the service, and I looked back at her and said she was sitting behind me. I had just met her. She came from Sinaloa to live with her cousins, and when she was talking and she was making noise, I looked back and asked her to be quiet, and she said, "I hate this guy." And then a year later, we got married.
The first thing you ever say to your wife is, "Be quiet."
That's it.
Wow. Well, I mean, good for you. That doesn't work too much these days. Anyway, I'm just going to go on before I get in trouble. Hey, talk about your call to ministry. You're going to this church. You come to Christ. You've been going there, and what made you get into ministry?
Well, I was in leadership. As soon as I became a believer, I was literally thrown into leadership, and became the youth leader, pastor. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a pastor at that point, but nobody else was leading the youth. So when Yoli and I got married, we ended up being the leaders of the youth at the church, which was about 20 kids. And so from there, I just felt that I was just obedient, just obeying God, just serving in whatever capacity, whether it was fixing up the church, painting, whatever was broken, I would fix it. And then one day, they started talking about different ministries, and they started talking about missionaries. I said, no, I don't want to be a missionary. Evangelist, no, I don't want to be an evangelist. Whenever they said pastor, I said, God, that's what I want to be. That sounds good to me. I want to be in one place, in one church, the rest of my life, so I can be here. And that's why it was more appealing, just more than anything else, because of just being home every night and not being away for so long. God had other plans, but that's how it started. And just being a pastor is what was more appealing to me, and what I felt called by God for me to do.
And you pursued, was it Bible school after that?
Yes. After that, I told Yoli, and like you know, and some of you know, as soon as I told Yoli that I wanted to be a pastor, wanted to go to Bible school, she said, "You're crazy." And I said, well, okay. And so it wasn't until I tried to, I respected what she felt, and maybe because she knew me, she said, no, you're not fit to be a pastor, or whatever idea she had. But she said, no way, you're not going to be a pastor. That's not what God is telling you. You're confused. So I said, okay. And it wasn't until, and I went to Bible school. I started going to Bible school, and I stopped because she said, I don't think you should be doing this. This is not the right time. This is not, you're working full time and all that. And finally, God spoke to her in a conference, and God really spoke to her almost in an audible voice, where she said, you stop saying no, and as long as you keep saying no, he's not going to be a pastor. But you have to listen to me and say yes, because I want him to be a pastor. And when that happened, she said, you can go to Bible school. So from there, we went to Bible school, and I was sent to the community of El Nino in Tijuana after the El Nino storms.
So I remember those El Nino storms. There was major flooding here in Northern Cal, and there was major flooding in Tijuana. So some neighborhoods got wiped out, and then they just built a new area.
Yeah, they built a new area. Well, they had a lot of people at the shelter in a big auditorium in Tijuana, but I don't know, thousands of people that were there had lost their homes, and they were relocated. So they basically were put in a school bus, taken to this new community in the eastern parts of Tijuana. There was the last community in Tijuana. Nothing else was there at that time, 20 some years ago. And they said this basically started dropping them off, and there were some marks on the floor, just 4 chalk lines, and a number in the center. And they said, this is your new home. This is now your new home. This is where you live. So they were dropped off from the bus to nothing, not even nothing at all. So they ended up getting garage doors, blue tarps, and I got all over the news, and groups started building houses in the community, and that's how El Nino got started. And then my pastor planted a church in that community and sent me to help but build it. But when it was time for him to set up a pastor there, he said, you're not going to be the pastor, somebody else is going to be the pastor. So that took another 2 years before I ended up, he was removed, and I was asked to step in, and that's where it started.
Daniel, why did he not just hand it to you then? Do you know?
Because maybe 2 reasons. As I saw the stuff that happened later on in life, for those 2 years were 2 of the most terrible years in my life. The pastor's wife was treating me bad, poorly, very jealous. So basically, they kind of hid me. They didn't want me to promote. They didn't want to promote me with any other minister. I knew a lot of pastors from the Foursquare Church, which was where I was at that time, and they just kept me down. They kept me foot down, and you're not going anywhere. You're just gonna stay here. And they basically put me on a shelf for 2 years. So from 1999 to 2001, they put me on that shelf where it's like, you're not doing anything here, and you're not doing anything anywhere else. And that was a life school. I see it as that. I ended up going to the Bible college and got my associate's degree because I wasn't doing anything. I was dying because I had just graduated from Bible school in Mexico, and I was dying because I wanted to do something, and basically I was on that shelf, and I said, oh man, I'm dying. So my cousin asked me if I wanted to go to this Bible college in Spanish in San Diego, an extension of David Jeremiah's school, and I said yes. So I got busy doing that, and by the time it took me 4 years to get my associate's degree, but in the meantime, I was sent to El Nino, like halfway into that. So I continued doing Bible college until I got my associate's degree, and 1 night a week, and then a lot of homework. And then I was working full time. And by that time, I was already pastoring in El Nino. But when I took it over, it was only about 3 families that were all fighting for the power of the church, for being the pastors on the church. And when they finally, pastor had no choice. He almost had no choice. God put him against the corner, and then said, you know what? He was trying to do both churches, his main church and El Nino, and he was trying to do both. And I said, Pastor, you're dying. How can I help you? Do you want me to help you in El Nino? And much to to the opposition of his wife, he ended up sending me to El Nino, and that started our ministry in El Nino.
Wow. So you just waited for a couple of years, just hands in
Yes.
pockets. Okay, I'm going to get some schooling. I'm going to wait. And finally, this opportunity comes. And then what happened? The church did pretty well, didn't it?
Yes, well, it started growing. We started making the church bigger. I took it over in July. By December, we had already, that was 2001. By December of 2001, we had already poured the foundation to make it bigger. And then we started making bigger and bigger. Every time we would make it bigger, the place would get filled up. I never knew anything about having a second service. I wish I knew that then, what I know now, as they say. But I never thought about even having a second service, just making church bigger and bigger. And God kept providing, and God kept doing what is culturally acceptable in Mexico. So God was blessing it. And then from there, we were almost halfway done with basically halfway done with the church. I mean, let me put it this way. First half was done of the church, finished and everything. And that's when we're in the process of making it twice as big. By that time, we were up on the second story. We were having a Bible school. We were having dorms in the church. And by that time, when we were doing all that, and God gave me a vision, or I was in a service, a men's conference right there in the church in El Nino. And the preacher said, write something on a napkin, a piece of paper that you want to do in your life, but you need to have God's help. You cannot do it alone. So out of the blue, I just wrote down on that paper, on that napkin, I said, 500 churches, plant 500 churches in my lifetime, put it, folded it and put it in the offering basket. We prayed 500? Over it.
Was it 500?
No, excuse me, 50 churches. Sorry. 50. That was in Spanish, so I was confused. No, it was 50 churches, to plant 50 churches in my lifetime. So that was the yes,
where did that come from, by the way? Where did that come from?
The 50?
Yeah, or just the whole church planting thing.
The church. Well, I don't know. I was working with a ministry before before I was even working for that ministry, I always looked at an empty lot and I said, God, I would tell Yoli, my wife, hey, this is a great place for a church, empty lot. And of course, she will always say, you're crazy. It's a great property for a church. You're crazy. So you want to build churches all over. Then I got this calling to plant 50 churches in my lifetime. I was working with another ministry that was building churches. They were not necessarily planting churches, but they were building churches. So there were people that needed a building and they would build it for them. And they probably got to build maybe 3 or 4 with them. But most of those churches are already closed down. There's no supervision. There's no accountability. They just build the church and then get out. And the difference with what we do is we not only build churches, but we plant the churches. We train the pastors and we support them even after they're trained and sent. We support them. So we are with them all the way. We're not just building a church and leaving them orphans. So I think that's what makes our ministry different in the way that we care for the pastors and we care for the health of the pastor and the pastor's family, pastor's wife, instead of just building more and more churches. It sounds like we're just building more and more churches. We got to 50, but it's more. All of them are open, all of them are functioning, and all of them have a pastor and a healthy pastor. And that's the key to I think to our success is that we're trying to make sure that the pastor is healthy.
Well, I can attest to the fact that if you're driving with Daniel in Tijuana, he will see a piece of land and he'll pull over and go, "This is a good place for a church." And I think pretty much who owns every plot of land because you're trying to negotiate with them. So you had this vision, and you ended up planting too right away, right?
Yes. So that happened in November of 2005. And we were driving in the community called Rojo Gomez, which is about 10 minutes from El Nino. And Turi was doing an open air service, worship with his friends, with his band from El Nino, worshiping in the Rojo Gomez in an open air service for a team that was having a barbecue in building two homes in that community. So we're driving by the church. I was with a team from Sandals Church that came down, and we started praying. And I said, I want to build a church in this community. And they said, where? I said, I don't know. There's a piece of land right there. Let's go pray over it. And so we got in a circle with a white van. And by the time we finished praying for the property and for just God provide land to build a church, and we want to build a church in this community, if it's your will and all that. And then all of a sudden, we had over 100 people surrounding us saying, oh, expecting it's a white van, there's Americans, they're going to give us something. And sure enough, they had some toys, they had some shoes, and we started having, I started telling people and started preaching to them and say, the best gift is Jesus Christ, not this gift, not these shoes. And then all of a sudden I said, we're going to build a church here. And they just looked at me like I'm crazy. And they said, where? We don't see where. And I said, I don't know. But we were building houses in that community with the other ministry. And 2 weeks later, I drive by the place where we prayed over, and in the place where we prayed, and where there was a for sale sign on one of the lots. And I called the lady. She said, give me $1,000 down payment and $150 a month, and it's yours. And so I said, deal. I called somebody. I raised $1,000, and I called my friend Scott Griffiths from Mariners, and he said, and he was going to come with the teenagers and high schoolers from Mariners, 250 high schoolers in 2006 on Memorial Day. And I said, can that be one part of your building a church for us? And he said, yes, absolutely. So that was in Memorial Day weekend, we built the first church, and we started our first church in Memorial Day of 2006.
Wow. When I met you, you had started 14 churches. We met in Orlando, and we met 14 churches, and I invited you to a couple of events and then to a Discovery Center. By the time you came to the Discovery Center, you were at 17. You were just going.
Yes.
But it's been a delight working with you. Just watching what God has done. What's been the hardest thing about 0 to 50?
The hardest thing, having to confront pastors, rebuke them, or even remove them for moral failures or not enough growth and not enough health, and asking them to step down. It's like you mentioned last week. I'm Santa Claus and Grinch at the same time, and I'm Santa Claus when I set them up and build a church for them. But when I come and ask them to step down for this or that reason, I am their worst enemy. And even some of the worst enemies I have is people that I believed in, that I helped them build a church, but I had to ask them to step down, and that's been the hardest part. Just going through that. I mean, there's a lot of people that think that I'm not doing it for the right reasons. That doesn't worry me too much because I know who I'm serving and who I'm trying to please. But it's hard sometimes. It's hard to see Yoli. Sorry. It's just hard to see Yoli go through the stuff or see when she sees me go through the stuff, and it hurts me. But I know it's harder on her. Sorry.
I know there's a lot more opposition than anybody, at least in the States, would expect.
Yeah.
But when you're multiplying, when you're planting churches, there's some jealousy. A lot of people just don't get it. Culturally, it's not part of who we are. Biblically, it's the whole point. It's the whole point. Spread the gospel. But I know culturally, it's just so hard.
Yeah, I mean, like we say, it should be the norm, but it's not. It's not the normal. The norm is not to be planting churches. It's so weird, so difficult to when people don't get it, people don't understand it, and they think, like I said, like they protect their leaders. They think they accuse me of stealing their leaders, and honestly, I mean, I just went through that with Hector, church number 50, and risking losing friends for 30-year friendship, risking to lose it just to see Hector accomplish his goal in life, his calling in life. And I don't care. I risk it. And that's the painful part, because Yoli says, you should not do it. You should leave Hector alone, and he shouldn't be removed from his church, or he shouldn't leave his church to come and plant a new church. And of course, it's like Pastor Daniel only wants to accomplish his goal. He doesn't care about anything else. And that's not true. But there's no way I can convince them that is not true. So I just do what I can. Was able to sit down with his pastor at Starbucks in San Isidro for 3 hours, and everything was well. Everything. I mean, of course, this guy Hector is the worst guy, and I'm setting him up as a pastor for church number 50. So I'm just trying to listen to them and give him some grace. But it's like, why did you have him preaching last Sunday at your church if he's so bad? Why did you have him leading the Thursday night service for a year or two when you're not even able to come to the church on Thursday nights because you're working or because there's a lot of traffic in Tijuana? And you have him preaching in charge of the service on Thursday nights and preaching on Sundays. That doesn't coincide with what you're telling me about him. So basically what they're saying is, don't take my leader. I need him. It's my kingdom. And that's so common in these days in Mexico. At least my kingdom is not God's kingdom. It's my kingdom. And I need him in my kingdom. And that's totally wrong, because we're working to extend God's kingdom. And when number 50 gets 50 people, 100 people, and we want to make it bigger because it's growing so much, I mean, that's people that wouldn't be reached if it wasn't a church in that community.
Yeah.
So I risk losing the friendship. I mean, it's not that I don't care. I do care, and I care a lot, but it's more important. If I have to choose, I choose planting a new church with that guy.
Thank you for powering through that. And there's a lot of people on your side.
Thank you.
Sometimes the people who are not on your side are a little louder, but there's more of us who are behind you.
Thank you.
So you hit 50. Now what? I know you always said I was going to retire and go to Cancun, but now what?
Yeah. That's what I was going to do, yeah. Puerto Vallarta is not too bad either. No, I mean, the new goal, which I love, the new goal, when maybe I can explain a little bit if we have time for 50, because 50 in Spanish means 50, but it also means without count. Different spelling, but it sounds the same, 50. So people said, you misunderstood God. God didn't say 50 as in 50 as in 50. God spoke in Spanish to you and says 50, and 50, it was sin cuenta, which means without count. That means you won't stop at 50. I said, okay. I mean, people started saying that at the beginning, from the get-go. But when we got to 40 churches, people started asking us, what's next? What's next? What's going to happen after 50? We're going to get to 50, and what's going to happen? And I'm very delighted to hear that my team, which is 40 or under, all the people in my team, my leadership team are under 40. And it was so great to hear them come and say, Pastor Daniel, so far we have been following your vision and what God called you to do. But now God has called us to plant churches, and we're going to be planting churches, but 50 is just the beginning. We're going to go for 500 churches. So that's a new goal, 500 churches. We have 3 more coming in from the Father's house in Vacaville, different places that they have satellites, 3 more. And then one, I was on a conversation with Jeff Snodgrass, and he was telling me that another church in Anaheim wants to build a church in La Gloria here in Tijuana. So, I mean, we're going to get to 500. I don't know if I'm going to get to 500 in my lifetime, but I know my next generation, which is part of it is my son, Turi, that he's going to be leading the team to do 500 churches. And hopefully my grandkids will be doing 5,000 and just keep putting a 0 every generation.
That's really great. That's great. Hey, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing. You've been a great friend to me, and it's a delight to see somebody set just kind of an unreachable goal and then reach it. That's just really cool. You've been trusting God. He's doing it, and I know he's going to continue to do that in you and through you and with your team, with your kids and your grandkids in the future. So thanks for your story, Daniel. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.